The village that didn't exist. Joseph had always been a fan of exploring forgotten places. An amateur urban explorer, he loved visiting abandoned towns and ghostly ruins, documenting them on his blog. One weekend, he set off on a solo trip through the mountains of a remote region after hearing whispers about an old village that wasn't marked on any map. Elder Hollow. Locals in the nearest town warned him, speaking in hushed tones about how no one ever came back from that trail. But Joseph laughed it off. Ghost stories were common in old towns. He loaded up his gear and hiked deep into the woods, following a barely visible path. After hours of trekking, he emerged into a wide clearing. There it was, Elder Hollow. The village looked untouched by time. Neatly kept houses stood in perfect rows. Children played in the streets, and elderly folks waved at him kindly as he passed. The people dressed simply in old-fashioned clothes, but nothing seemed too strange. Joseph felt a strange comfort in the warm welcome, even though he hadn't seen a power line or a car in miles. A woman named Margaret offered him a room for the night. Her home was quaint and cozy, filled with the scent of burning firewood. That evening, Joseph joined a small village feast. The villagers were curious about his life in the city, but avoided answering his questions about their own history. That night, Joseph lay in bed, unable to sleep. There was a heavy silence, too perfect, too still. He looked outside his window. The streets were empty now. No wind, no animals, no sound. He swore he saw someone or something standing perfectly still at the edge of the trees, watching the village. The next morning, everything felt off. The villagers greeted him again, still smiling, still warm, but their eyes were wrong, blank, too wide, too still. Margaret served him breakfast, but when he blinked, her expression suddenly shifted. For a split second, he saw her face pale, her eyes sunken, her skin stretched too tight across her skull. Then it was gone. She smiled again. Joseph tried to leave, claiming he had an emergency, but every path he took led him back to the same clearing. No GPS signal, no compass working. That night, the truth revealed itself. He woke up to whispers. Hundreds of whispers. He stepped outside and saw the village transformed. The houses, once vibrant, were now rotting, covered in vines and moss. Roofs collapsed, windows shattered, and the villagers were no longer human. Their skin turned a sickly gray, their eyes hollow, mouths hanging open as if screaming silently. Their movements were stiff and unnatural, like puppets on strings. One by one, they turned to Joseph. "You see us now," they whispered in one voice. "You're part of us now." He ran, stumbling through the undergrowth, but the village never let him go. Every turn brought him back to the central square, the same houses, the same dead-eyed stares. The next morning, hikers reported seeing a man sitting in a collapsed ruin deep in the woods, talking to himself. When they approached, he smiled and asked, "Would you like to stay the night?" The villagers are lovely, but when they blinked, he was gone. And so was the village. No one has found Elder Hollow again, but sometimes, at the edge of the forest, you'll hear faint laughter, or see a pale face watching you from the trees.